Welcome back, everybody, to another shocking prison reality check episode of Lockdown 23 and 1. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, shocking reality check it is. Many people go to prison, maybe get in a couple fights here and there, make it back out to their family, but many inmates don't, and it's very rare that the public get to hear about it. I mean, they make news articles and stories sometimes, but it kind of just stays stagnant. So I pride myself in bringing these stories to y'all's attention, even though, a lot of these guys didn't deserve death. They were short timers. They were just supposed to be in and out. But on the other side of the coin, some of these inmates, many people would say they had it coming. It was just a matter of time. And the first story I'm bringing your way today is a prime example of that. I got a lineup of articles coming from all across the country and once again across the pond. Believe it or not, them inmates over there are starting to turn up. And what I'm speaking on, if you're a little lost, is inmate on inmate homicides. So let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. If you're new to the channel and enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is absolutely where you need to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my beautifully assorted playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today. Alright, so this first story was kind of wild to me because I remember I want to say a week ago, there was a comment in my comment section saying, hey, we got our hands on, if I remember correctly, or they said that someone got their hands on this individual, Ian so-and-so, and they were like, they took him to the hospital, he's in ICU, he ain't gonna survive if I were to guess. And sure enough, when I went down my recent inmate on inmate homicide list, this individual was at the top, Ian Huntley. Which comes shortly after, I don't know if you remember, Ian Watkins. He was stabbed to death in HMP Wakefield. It's not a good time to be in any kind of prison in England right now with the name Ian. These dudes are getting smoked faster than brisket at Texas Longhorn. These English inmates, man, it's turning into Braveheart out there. Well, Braveheart guys were Scottish, right? But Ian Watkins, man, he was in there for some sick and twisted stuff, and so was this individual. And I apologize if I don't pronounce these towns and counties right, alright? I'm not from England. Soham killer Ian Huntley has died in a hospital after he was attacked in a workshop of a maximum security prison by another inmate. The 52-year-old suffered severe brain trauma in an attack at HMP Franklin. He was reportedly blinded and was not expected to regain consciousness after being beaten over the head with a makeshift weapon at a high-security prison. Huntley, a former school caretaker, was convicted of murdering 10-year-old schoolgirls Jessica Chapman and Holly Wells in Soham, Cambridgeshire. I know I did not pronounce that right. In 2002, in a case that shocked the nation. And this is just tragic. Listen to this. Holly and Jessica were murdered after they left a family barbecue to buy some sweets. And they ran into this monster here.
It's just very upsetting, to think that I might be the last friendly face that these two girls had to speak to.
Huntley was arrested the same day. He'd lured Holly and Jessica into his home, claiming his girlfriend was inside. He was sentenced to life with a minimum of 40 years.
A Ministry of Justice spokesperson said that the murders of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman remains one of the most shocking and devastating cases in our nation's history. And our thoughts are with their families. Yes, they are. And our hearts as well. Absolutely tragic. And like I said in the beginning of the intro, some people would say, homeboy got exactly what was coming to him. Maybe a little later than it should have, but it came around. It continues saying that he never really recovered from the beating he took and never stood much of a chance of doing so. Huntley had been attacked loads of times in prison, so the day he was killed was always likely to arrive. Oh man, I know that brings people a lot of joy knowing he was tormented all the way until this day. See, over here in some states, not all of them, but the majority of them, if I were to guess, homeboy probably still be alive, eating white-faced honey buns in the cell block, kicked back, waiting for that next HGTV remodel. But I'm hearing that a lot of these individuals that are killing people over there have bad paperwork as well. So they might be in a special block, but they give them a little more freedom maybe? Not quite sure. Either way, it says, the murderer and rapist Anthony Russell, 43, reportedly shouted, "I've done it. I've done it," after Huntley was attacked in the recycling area of the prison. And like I just said, another individual here with bad paperwork himself ended up killing somebody else with kind of the same kind of paperwork he had. So can we really be excited for dude? Would you send him commissary money? He is a rapist, keep that in mind. But he did many people a favor. The conundrums here are going crazy. It's like a very deep paradox. Labyrinth. But the next one, ladies and gentlemen, you ain't gonna believe this. We're traveling up north to a state we haven't been to in a while. New Jersey. A shocking inmate on inmate murder at a New Jersey prison is raising serious questions about supervision at the facility. The Essex County Prosecution's Office and State Department of Corrections have launched an investigation into what happened at Northern State Prison. Not only did the murder take place inside a prison cell that was on lockdown, but documents obtained show corrections officers never opened the cell for 2 days as a man was beaten to death. He was supposed to be released within weeks after serving 2.5 years on a gun charge. And this ties into my intro as well. Some people, man, they're just supposed to be in and out for the most part, short timer. Prosecutors charge Melvin's cellmate, Abdul Bryant, with the murder. He has pleaded not guilty. The criminal complaint states that the victim sustained severe blunt force trauma to the body, face, and head. The beating was so severe that the family says they were not shown the full photos. Man, you know it's bad if they couldn't show it. That means he was probably completely unrecognizable. And I told y'all a story about one of the most treacherous things I've seen in prison, and that was the situation. His face, I mean, it looked nothing like the guy. He just kept beating dude even after he was unconscious. That was terrifying to me. The complaint also raised further disturbing questions. It says that Melvin was last observed alive on 120 at approximately 7 p.m. Investigators interviewed a witness in a neighboring cell who said that through the next day, he heard loud banging and kicking noises coming from cell 323. The witnesses further stated that he heard the victim screaming and asking for help. Melvin's family attorney, Brooke Barnett, said that she had spoken to another witness. They heard my client Melvin screaming for help, asking to save him from death, said Barnett. Now this is even creepier. Listen to this. Not only did it take them 2 days to find the body, because they're on lockdown and Hobo was just sleeping in there with it. Unreal, right? Most people want to get the hell up out of there. But no, he thought he was actually going to try to get away with it, even though he beat him pretty much unrecognizable. It says the witness who referenced in the complaint stated that he heard flushing and the sink being used throughout the night, and that Bryant told the witnesses he assaulted the victim and then washed him up to appear he wasn't injured. The report notes that the surveillance video showed the cell wasn't opened by officers until the morning of January 22nd, when Melvin's body was discovered. Crazy situation, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, this is the shocking reality of prison. All it takes is the wrong cell block and the wrong cell with the wrong cellmate. And your 2.5 years, 3 years, 1 year can turn into a death sentence. Now the next story, believe it or not, is coming from my home state of Virginia. And coming from the first mainline prison I ever went to. Greensville Correctional Center, man. The amount of stuff that I learned from this place. I mean, pretty much everything that I speak of on prison on this channel, I learned from here. It says the Virginia Department of Corrections, VDOC, is investigating the death of an inmate following an apparent attack by the inmate's cell partner at Greensville Correctional Center. And this prison is just absolutely massive. Took the golf cart to other buildings and all kinds of stuff, man. It's a huge compound. Pure treachery, too. I'm not even playing. But it says the incident occurred approximately at 3:10 a.m. after a corrections team member called for assistance from a corrections supervisor. One inmate was found on top of their cell partner, who was unresponsive. Judging by the time that it took place, because they don't feed at no 3 o'clock in the morning at Greensville. That's too early. If I were to guess, homeboy took his life while he was sleeping. Corrections team members attempted life-saving measures until the first responders from Greensville County arrived on the scene. The inmate was pronounced deceased at approximately 4:30 a.m. And of course, just like in Virginia style, there's no photos or anything to go with it. But you know, if there's any kind of inmate on inmate homicides coming from the prisons I did time in, I gotta bring them your way. It kind of co-signs in a way to, you know, the amount of violence and level of danger that's at this facility, you know, and I lived through it. I mean, just the other month, I believe MS-13 gang member, if I remember correctly, killed a canine dog from the same prison, I believe. No, they got shipped to that prison, Greensville, after the fact. But also another inmate took a CO's life not too long ago as well. Just the other month from Virginia. So, you know, just for anybody that thinks things ain't jumping in the state that I did time in, think again. Shout out to all my Tidewater 757 viewers. But for the next story, ladies and gentlemen, we're traveling down to Iowa. A jury found an Iowa man guilty of voluntary manslaughter this week in the case of a death of an inmate who murdered his own wife.
The Iowa Department of Corrections says 64-year-old Greg Showalter died at the University of Iowa Healthcare Medical Center on December 28th. Showalter was found guilty on a number of charges, including first-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, and domestic abuse in the death of his wife, Helen. In late 2023, Showalter sparked an hours-long search after he failed to show up for the trial verdict after being released on bond. Authorities found him hiding in his home. Officials have not said how he died.
Well, I know how he died. It says Michael Kohlheffer, 35 was found guilty of killing Gregory Showalter, while both were inmates at the Iowa State Penitentiary in Fort Madison. Court documents indicate that Kohlheffer assaulted Showalter in the penitentiary kitchen. The two men got into a verbal altercation, then eventually led to Kohlheffer pushing Showalter, and it's very hard for me to say these guys' names, and I know I'm pronouncing them wrong, but still. But Kohlheffer pushing Showalter to the floor, began punching, kicking, and stomping Showalter's head and face, including several punches and stomps that occurred after Showalter appeared to lose consciousness. And that brings up what I just mentioned earlier in that one story, man. One of the worst things I've seen in prison is dude getting beat even after he was blacked out. It's like just tenderizing meat at that point. And then, man, I'll never forget that lip going through teeth. Seen a few of those situations. I actually had a cellmate that had that. He bit through his lip a little bit during a fight, man. He was complaining for like a month about the damn salt from the shebangs. It didn't stop him from eating them, though. But that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you enjoyed the lineup of inmate on inmate homicides. Unfortunately, well, I guess a lot of people probably just say one story was unfortunate. The rest, like I said, were inevitable. They were coming sooner or later. And if I were to bet it all, left many people joyful. But stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. The content gravy train never stops rolling. So if you're new and enjoyed, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave. And more importantly than anything, y'all be easy, be safe, and stay free.